looking for a podcast to help you transform your physical and mental? One that'll shoot you straight between the eyes with truth and no BS, helping you have the right mindset to accomplish things, the iron will and fortitude to follow through with what you say you're going to do. No excuses. Mark owns martial arts schools, and after 30 years, he has some real insight for real talk, real life, real conversations, motivational, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, live from the Great 1-8. This is Real Talk with Mark Cox.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. Well, it might be afternoon where you're at. Where do you live anyway?
I'm in Virginia, so it is afternoon.
Oh, you're in Virginia. So I'm going to be there pretty soon.
Nice.
Are you near Manassas or not?
I am. Yeah, I'm about 20 minutes north of it.
Yeah, I'm going to be there around May. In May, I'll be coming into town, and
Nice.
I'll be doing. We have a school out there in Manassas. I'll be coming in doing a seminar there, so it's going to be fun.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait
I'll
to
let
see
you. Oh yeah, I'll let you know when I'm there. Maybe we can grab some coffee or something like that. It'd be fun. All right. Well, today, listen. So, if you guys haven't been on or listened to my show before, I've always had these awesome guests come on. And today's guest, his expertise lies in how to look a little bit better online, as far as lighting and everything else goes. And being that we are online quite a bit on Zoom or whatever, you can always kind of tell when you get online on somebody that's just kind of in their kitchen in the background with, not really having good lighting and stuff like that, as opposed to somebody. And you can even see the contrast between two of us. And I got a pretty nice setup, but your lighting and everything is pretty clean. So with no further ado, I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce yourself to our people, and we're gonna get started right away.
Hey, Mark, thanks so much for having me here on the podcast Beyond the Mat. Super excited to be here. My name is Junaid, like lemonade, and I'm a home studio architect as well as a seasoned podcaster with over 6 years in the field and over 450 episodes, guest episodes. And today I'm excited to be here, answer questions, anything about home studios, what it takes to set up a professional recording setup that aligns perfectly with the dynamics needs of a business and podcasting. So,
Junaid, how did you start your podcast? Let's name, what's the name of your podcast?
So my podcast is called Hacks and Hobbies, and it started as me documenting my beekeeping journey into getting into beekeeping, and it arose from the fact that 8 years prior to my podcast starting, I'd taken my son for allergy testing, and the doctor there mentioned, hey, local honey is really good for seasonal allergies. And it just stuck in the back of my mind. Now, fast forward, I learned a ton about beekeeping and just kept stacking over time and time again. I backed into a project that was all around beekeeping, and it was until 2017 I got into this beekeeping course, and 2018 I launched, I became a beekeeper, and I was around the same time I was reading this book called Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk, and the thought that was in my mind was like, hey, I want to start my podcast again. I had started one in 2012, but I wanted to go back into it full force. And Gary said, just document your journey. And I was like, wait, what journey am I on right now? Oh, a beekeeping journey. Well, this would be a perfect thing to get started. And that's how the podcast started.
So is that you have, that started your journey. So how is it that you have guests then? So is it different hobbies or what?
Yeah. So it started with me, documenting my journey. I'm talking about all the different hobbies that I have: woodworking, cycling, film production, beekeeping, and I talked into the microphone all by myself. And I was like, you know what? I wonder if there's other people who are interested in having a conversation with me. And that's when I started bringing guests onto the podcast. So I kind of did a pivot from a solo episode, solo podcast to a interview show, understanding how did they take their hobbies and their passions into profit. So Hacks and Hobbies, Passion to Profit Stories is what I renamed it or added on to the podcast, and got to interview some really amazing guests that showed me, hey, this is how I took my passion, my hobby, into a full-time gig that not only enriches my life but also enables me to help others along the way.
So it's funny, that's how I started also. I started solo, and then I started, but every once in a while I enjoy going solo still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Documentary and stuff that maybe I'm going through, or we'll talk a little bit about mindset or the championship mindset, stuff like that. So I've always kind of enjoyed the solo, and I get good feedback on the solo when I do it. The interviews have been fun for sure. I get people. I think I told you this before. I kind of get to meet with people for an hour and what they do to help others, and I get to ask these questions. So, do you find yourself still doing some solo work?
Oh, 100%. I do a ton of solo episodes because people come to listen to my podcast to listen to me, right? They're connected to me. They're coming to the podcast because they want to listen to me, not because the guests that I have. They want to understand, hey, where is Junaid going? How did he get here? Oh my God, what's he doing next? How's he launching this new business and all the cool things as an entrepreneur does.
I think you hit the nail right on the head, because I tell also a lot of friends of mine that do their podcasting and stuff now. I tell them the same thing. I said, people don't come to listen to their guest; they come to listen to you. Yeah. And the guest just happens to be part of that show that time. So I think that's really good advice when for people that are listening, that you are the one that people are coming to listen to. So
yeah,
don't take it for granted that what you have isn't what people want to hear. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. And sometimes we run out of the stories, right? Sometimes we don't have enough content, and that's where the guests fill in, right? That's where when you bring in guests,
right,
helps to make that product, make that podcast pop even more.
Yeah, 100%. And this, so when we had a little bit of a coffee, when we were talking, you and I were talking, it intrigued me that you do this professionally, that you set up audio and lighting and stuff for people to be able to have a better looking Zoom or whatever else it is that people, they're on Zoom meetings and stuff all the time. Even my Toastmasters meets online. Yeah. And you can tell the ones that have kind of a professional setup a little bit, that they just have a different, they'll ask all the time, why is your voice sound so good?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't know, what, in your opinion now, what I try and tell people is, listen, if you're going to do a podcast, the most important thing is kind of the sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That people can hear you. If you don't have good sound, it just isn't as, it definitely isn't as enjoyable. Let's say that. I can tell you that.
Absolutely. People are going to switch the channel because they have better, they want the comfort of listening to a warm voice, right? They want to be able to listen to the voice, take the message in. But if there's crackly, if there's noise, if there's other stuff around, the brain's like, let's find something else.
It's so true, because I find myself doing the same stuff sometimes where I'm like, man, it doesn't sound as clear, or it really is distracting if it cuts in and out and stuff like that. And I've had these, and I don't know if you've had experience any on your podcast. I've had the same experience sometimes. I have one that's just, when I listen back at it, I said, man, it's just terrible. The sound is just terrible. It just didn't come out right today.
Yeah.
And then you try to duplicate your show isn't really all that easy to do either. to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things for sure that, and then you told me, like when we met, I was, and I've been doing this for a little while too. And when we met, I said, your background is clear. In mine, I'm not a big fan of green screens.
Mm-hmm.
Because people kind of, their head kind of moves out or whatever. I'm not a fan of them. And mine, people ask me about my backgrounds all the time. They're like, it's snowing in the background or whatever. And I say, you'd be surprised on what this is. I said, this is a giant TV.
It's a giant television behind you, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a giant TV with YouTube. And, so at Christmas time, I'll have more of a Christmas background or whatever. And I think I found this at a restaurant, believe it or not. I don't know if I told you that story. I was sitting at this Mediterranean restaurant, and they had these giant screens, and you could sit and have wine or coffee and behind this, big fireplace looking. And I was like, man, I'm going to do that. And that's how I started doing that for sure.
I love it.
So for the layman, let's just say for those that are just doing simple meetings to make yourself look better, what's your opinion on cameras? Let's talk about the camera part first. Most people have MacBook Pros. That's what they have mostly.
Yeah. And
they kind of use their camera on the MacBook Pro. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the cameras that you kind of use and what I use. I have a 4K camera that I use that is hooked to the computer. But I believe that you actually use a DSLR camera. Is that correct?
Right. So I use a mirrorless camera or a DSLR camera mainly because the physics, right? Now, we can get the nicest 4K webcams. The physics still doesn't change to the fact, compared to what the MacBook Pro has. So it's a smaller camera, it's a small sensor, and I usually have these little prop right here in front of me. So this little white dot that you see, that's the size of the sensor that these webcams and the webcams on the MacBooks are. Now, this is not two sides, but it's, relative. But this entire black box is the size of a sensor that's inside the camera that I'm using. So when you look at that comparison, and then on top of that, the lens in front of that, in front of the camera, the webcams probably might be anywhere from 2 millimeters to 5 millimeters, whereas the camera that I'm using has a nice big lens in front of it. So again, comparatively and relatively, you've got a larger lens, you've got a larger glass, you've got a larger sensor. It's able to collect a lot more light, and because all of this is getting compressed anyways, if you give it really good quality image, it's going to compress down to really good quality looking image as well. So I start with, hey, no more post editing. In the films industry, they said, hey, avoid editing anything in post. You want to make sure that everything pre-post, anything that comes to the camera, is naturally well lit, well set up, so that you have a lot more room to work with the setup that you have after the fact.
Yeah. So that is, and you can, those that are watching, you can just tell a totally different in the cameras. So I've taken that to heart too, because I have one of these cameras. Yeah. I just never thought, what the setup's going to be. It's going to be above the computer. Is it look? I mean,
right.
You have to kind of focus it in, and it's not by remote by any means.
Correct.
Correct. And so you got to have all that game in plan. So for those that aren't doing it, what's your suggestions for them on camera wise then? What's that suggestion?
Any camera that you have is the perfect camera, because that's what you have, right? So you want to make the best use case of that camera. So what you want to do is I want to add lights as much as possible. And adding the lighting is going to help that camera out a lot more, because the more the light, the camera is able to now see what it's seeing, right? Just like for our human eyes at nighttime, well, we need to turn the lights on, right? It's very dark. We can over time adjust to darkness, but then the cameras aren't as good as our eyes are. So again, you want to provide as much lighting as possible. And the first thing that I tell is you have free light available by the sun shining through that window. And all you want to do is add a white sheet in front of that window so that now you have a diffused, softer light coming and lighting you up. So that's what I try to mimic.
Yes, that's so good. That's, such an easy take on that, for sure. Because when I first started, I had, I could tell that my lighting wasn't as good, and it's still not as perfect as what I like it sometimes. I told you before, your lighting looks good because it's dramatic on one side, it's right on one side, kind of dark on the other, just on your face. I don't know if it's your face with that epic beard or what that is that makes it look so good. But Daniela's on here too. I don't know if you know Daniela. Do you know Daniela?
I don't know Daniela, but hello, Daniela. Nice to meet you.
This is Emilio's wife. So if you haven't been in that community before, you're in the CLA, correct?
I am in CLA.
Yeah. They're definitely both in that for sure. Nice. He's the one that helped me write my book.
Very amazing.
Yes, him and his wife there. So, and he's online all the time, and he encourages people to go online. That's why I was looking forward to having people come on here just so that they can. There's Emilio saying hi. Just so people have a way of making themselves look a little bit more professional. You know what I mean? So they can come across and people listen to them. Because I'll tell you, when I do my stuff in Toastmasters and stuff, my setup is so much better. Most people are just on their computers and their mics and stuff like that. So it automatically puts me a head a step above everybody. Yeah. They want to listen to it because it's just so much more professional. And I think people have this thought process, oh man, that's just so expensive to do everything. And it wasn't at first. I mean, I got some toys. I think I told you, I got one of these pod tracks where I can, play music like this, right? And and to make things have fun. You know what I mean? Big Ray's on here too. Ray's a good guy. Say hello, Ray. He's the one that does all my tattoos right now these days.
Hey, Ray. Nice work, man.
He's been out. Him and I spent 3.5 hours yesterday on my back. He's doing a giant train on my back, and that was just a long session for sure. So welcome, Ray. Good to see you here. And so I want to get back to the mic portion. Your thought process on the computer mic. We already talked about the computer camera, right? Now we got the computer mic, and what it does for you, just the sound. Because I don't know. I really feel that sound is probably one of the most important things, because a lot of people, even if they're listening to us on YouTube or something like that, they're usually listening. A lot of people can't just sit and watch a whole episode, so they're just kind of listening in the background. I still think the sound is probably one of the things that needs to be talked about the most, to make sure that it's clear.
I totally agree, because a good video with bad sound is bad video. So you definitely want to make sure that you have the best audio possible set up, and it's not that hard. Having a dedicated microphone is going to help you create a better connection with the audience. And audio is just much important, right? I have a 1-year-old, but before he was even born, you talk to kids inside the mom's tummy, right? So you can talk and they can recognize that voice, recognize that sound. So the same thing you're doing when you're creating audio, when you're creating a piece of content or a video for somebody to listen to, you want to make sure that your audio is top notch, the best possible, because that in turn not only keep them listening to your message, but it also enables AI to transcribe that text properly. Right? We've been seeing AI all over the place, and if your audio is clean and sharp, well, AI is going to be able to transcribe and create content out of that so much faster. So audio is number one in any space at all.
Now, do you have an encouraging? Is there something that Let's talk about people that like to use their phones the most. Maybe they do live Facebook and stuff like that. Ray's talked about, oh no, AI. The artists hate AI.
Well, they shouldn't, because it's the it's almost like when people say, "Oh my God, computers are going to take away the jobs." Well, guess what? We're using computers now. It just takes us the next level up, So that's where AI is at, and we've been using it for 20 years. It's just now more accessible for everybody else.
It's great. Well, this, I use an AI myself for when we're done, and I'll make clips out of what we done, and you can the AI will go through this whole video, cut out the best parts of what we talked about, and you're going to have this stuff that you can put out on your social media. And I'm telling you, it takes the AI 15 minutes. It would I can't even imagine how many hours.
It takes at least a few hours for sure.
Right. And so, and this AI will say, hey, how I say, hey, I only want 60 seconds or whatever it is, so that it stays within that window of sharing it on Reels. And it's just, yes, it is amazing for sure. There's definitely things, but here's the thing: AI is not creative. The human's creative. You have to you have to be able to tell the AI what you want it to do.
Yeah.
It's just that is. So there is definitely good about it for sure. Now, so we're talking about people that kind of go live on Facebook quite often, and you're outside, and I will say this, that I think people for sure, they like the authenticity of stuff. You're on a run or something like that, and you're out there, and you're just kind of living that life that they're doing right at that particular second. So I think that there is a lot to do with that. But I also think that just a simple mic that plugs into your phone can help your audio 1,000%. You know what I mean? What's your thought on that?
100%.
What's your thought on the ones that you can get mics that kind of clip on you that can plug into the phone, or you have a Bluetooth mic? What's your thought on those mics?
Either any microphone that you can attach to your camera, to your phone, is better than not. Now, sometimes if the weather is right, if not too windy, the microphones on the phones will do a pretty good job, because number one, you have to think about it. There's actually 3 microphones on an iPhone. When you're recording video, it's using the sound around you, and it's actually trying to isolate your sound from everything else. So they've got smarts built into it, but I don't know how much of that is apparent when you're doing a live stream on Facebook. But when you're capturing content directly to video using the camera app on the phone, it's pretty straightforward that it's going to do the best that it can. So again, having a microphone will definitely help. I actually talk a lot about mobile video production in my book that I published last year, Mastering iPhone Video Production. So I could share a link to that book later on.
Yeah, if you can, let's pop that in the comments. Now, I didn't know about that. You had that a book on that. That's interesting. You know what I mean?
Thanks.
So I want to make sure we get that in there, because I didn't know. We'll talk about that in just a second. So if you put it in the chat, we'll have that. Now, that book you wrote, what's the name of that book now again?
It's called Mastering iPhone Video Production. I've got one copy right here.
Okay. That is, I'm writing this down right now. We'll make sure at the end of the show too, I get links to everything that you do. Okay. Well, let's talk about that book real quick, because what made you, what made you write the book, first of all?
Well, I've been shooting photos and videos for a very long time. I've been taking photos for at least 30 years, and I've been shooting video as long as I can remember, before the iPhones were recording video, right? So that's easily 15 plus years. And it wasn't until the iPhone 4 that they had perfected video on the iPhone. Now, I was out in 2014 at a trip with my brother-in-law. We were off-roading, and I was like, I want to capture this content. So I used my iPhone 5S at the time, recorded video, and I stitched it all together at the end of the trip. And that video alone got 34,000 views. Now, I shot, edited, and put it all together on the device. And at one of the events at the local LinkedIn local event, I was walking around with my iPhone, taking video of this event. And the guy who organized the event, he's like, "Dude, would you like to speak on using the iPhone for video production, or how to use iPhone better?" So I was like, "Sure." So I gave a talk on it. And from that talk came out an ebook, and then I put it all into the ebook. Sorry, I put it all into a printed book, and it's been just an amazing experience putting it all together. So this was written back in 2019, and then last year I published the book, and I used a little bit of AI to showcase some of the storytelling on, hey, here's Junaid's story from the behind, how he got into it, and then practical tips on what to do with your phone and what to think about.
So do you still use iPhones today?
Of course. Yeah.
So
I love these guys.
Right. So I have an iPhone, and I have a martial arts school. So it's amazing. It is amazing that I film all is like, if we're doing a black belt test, I go through their journey. It's a 6-month process. Every test, if we go on hikes or they're fighting or whatever we're doing, they just had a test on Friday. I'm filming everything.
Yeah. And
it's amazing what, even from, I used to have a little digital hand one, and I still use that one. As a matter of fact, it's a little handheld that does, goes onto a high-end micro.
Yeah.
But I've done most everything on the phone. Now, I'm telling you that the S24 that came out with Samsung, their camera, I don't know what the difference in their camera against iPhones, but I'm telling you that the sharpness of it is in serious contrast. Have you seen that? Do you believe that iPhones
no.
You haven't seen this S24? So we always in battle because my girlfriend has an S24, right? Kathy has an S24, and it's always, I have the iPhone, and I always get the newest iPhone. But her this last one that she has, and it's got some AI in it already, right? Built in. But the camera on it is just exquisite. I mean, the pictures and the different night modes and stuff that it can do is just phenomenal on what a phone can. I can't believe what a phone can do anyway. But
the best camera is the one that you have. It doesn't matter if it's an iPhone or a Samsung or a Motorola. As long as you're using it to capture your story, you're documenting it. It doesn't matter what camera it is. As long as you're doing it, is what matters.
Well, that is 100% true too, right? A lot of people have these great cameras and they don't really utilize them to their full potential, right? So that's definitely. So when you wrote the book on mastering iPhone video production, do you go into how to use your phone and how to document, and do you go into the production of it where I'm not sure what you use. What's your software you use when you're editing?
So I talk about the different software that's available. I talk about all of the things outside of the camera that you need to look at as well, right? Sometimes you don't have enough battery, you don't have enough storage. Look for all of those things. So there's a lot of things outside of doing the video capture that you need to think about. That's 80% of the stuff. And if you think about filmmaking, right, 80% of it is pre-production and post-production. It's probably 10% of the time of movie production is the actual recording of the video content.
Right. Well, now you tell me, because I'll tell you this, after doing this for years, I've done this for 20 years where I do the editing. So I use Final Cut Pro. I used to use iMovie. iMovie was so easy when I first learned how to do it. And then, I've got all the little tricks, right? I got the little thing, how to go in and rough everything out, and then rough edit, and then fine tune and stuff like that. I've got it down to quite a science. But do you use Final Cut yourself or not? Do you use a different?
Yeah, I use
so you have
Final Cut as well. Yeah.
So do you talk about that kind of stuff in your book
I do touch upon all of those things in the book as well. Yes.
So, I didn't realize we had this much in common on what we do, for sure.
Of course.
Because my videos, when you got a team of 15, 20 people, that's one thing they all look forward to at the end of their test is I do it's about a 20-minute production of it too. Nice, it's a 20-minute video of each of the people and kind of going through their journey and, individual pictures of them and stuff like that. So it's definitely definitely
a production.
It's production, and it's a labor of love too. I'm telling you right now.
It is.
People don't really realize the amount of hours I spend on that stuff. But I've learned how to be very good at doing pre-editing when I film now. I don't just set the camera on and then have to go through skinning that whole thing. I get those snippets that you need and what I'm actually looking for. So it makes production a lot simpler per se. So
you get good at the stuff that you work on and find the things that you don't need, and so it's all practice, and as you've been a instructor in black belt on the mat for 30 plus years managing, and when you started, I'm sure there was a lot of things that you didn't know. But now you have a huge list of what not to do.
That's correct. That's 100% true. There's when I look back on my originals, even I was like, oh man, there's times that I probably spent 40 hours.
Yeah.
Something that took me 40 hours will take me maybe 4 hours now. You know what I mean? Just because, knowing how to do things. But I think it's important. I didn't know you had that. I will encourage people to get something like that, because the phone. Yeah, I don't know if you watch people. My parents are getting all these old pictures of us out and all this old video.
Yeah.
But today's world, people that have kids that are 10 years old or 15 years old, they have all their kids' stuff on phone. Right.
Yep.
The entire stuff is on the phone. The stuff that is that we have to kind of make tape off tape and put it into digital and no sound. I mean, my dad has a lot of video of us, but there's no sound to it. There was no sound back then, right? And to see what they have on their phone and what they can do with it is just it's phenomenal, man. I get excited about it, is for sure. So I think that I had no clue that we would go off on a tangent about your book, but
it is related, right? Because the power of the phone is so much that you can actually use it as a webcam for your computer.
Right.
So they've enabled that
that's true.
Very recently, that you can use your phone as a webcam. It's a higher quality webcam than the one that's built into your phone. That's the one that you might buy from a store. So definitely, because again, we spend anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 on this device. Even the $500 units have a really high-end camera and lens system. So again, using your phone as a camera for your home studio, absolutely a pro startup.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's great. And now I'm seeing that I want to get to the lighting part of things, because and I want to make sure that we've had several people listening to this here, because how you look at your background, you can see that people, it's kind of blurred, but the lighting's in back. And people that are watching, I think they have to understand that your camera is your f-stop on your camera is what allows it to blur or not blur, right? Keep you sharp in the front, blurred in the back, and then you have this lighting behind you. Do you have the same lighting? Do you have a brand behind what you do for your lighting? Is it the same all the time? When you're setting up people, do you ask them, hey, what's your colors? You can kind of see what my colors are, right? They're black and red, and I put a little yellow in there. But do you go through this process with people on what their colors are and stuff like
I
that?
do, right? So those colors represent who you are. It also brings a kind of a connection to the audience. Like, hey, they see the red and the yellow. They're like, hey, it's Mark coming on. Or they see the pink and the purple. I mean, it's actually supposed to be, red and blue, but they merge into a purple. I was like, I'm going to keep it. It jives. So now I stick with the same layout for myself, and it just adds a little bit of hint. It's just an ambiance into what it looks like. Now, I can turn them off, right, and then have a really plain look. It looks I look really sharp, but again, you want to bring in a little bit of that
Yeah, you see, that makes such a
personality into
difference.
it.
Yeah, it makes such a difference when you did that.
Yeah,
I think that was a great visual. So anybody that's watching, you can see what that does when you bring a little bit of ambiance for sure behind it. Yeah, it just makes a different. Even in my background, I can find that some things are distracting. The backgrounds. I've always kind of liked libraries and stuff like that with the books in the background. I've always kind of liked that look. So I've always kind of stuck to that for sure.
Nice.
Or coffee shops. I like coffee shop backgrounds also. But I think that the ambiance that you have, and you have it right at your fingertips too, so you can kind of fix everything. Yeah. I mean, you're on the next level of those that are just doing this on an ongoing basis. But I tell you, I think that you guys, if you're listening, anybody that does a lot of online Zoom and stuff like that, if you look like the professional in the room, they're going to listen to you more anyway. Whether it's your voice or whatever, it's going to be something that they listen to for sure.
Yeah, I understand. I'm actually working on a book. Sorry, not a book, like a small ebook kind of thing that talks about the 7 levels of home studio setup. So, home studio, 7 stages of home studio evolution from beginner to broadcast quality, and it talks about which level do you fall in, and how can you go to the next level, and what are the different things that you should be thinking about. So I have that coming up pretty soon as well.
Yeah, I think all that's so good. I think Ray might be still listening too. Even Ray, if you have the ring, like a little ring light in your other phone that you have on, and he's tattooing, it can bring a whole nother level to your business that you have when you're doing things for sure. I think that I think anytime you can showcase what you do, it just highlights it, and your phone is such a great tool. And then to make it look good is fantastic. There's even some apps on the phone that you can just plug in the video, and it will spit out a 30-40 second video for you with some sound and different templates out of it that look great just for a quick Instagram or whatever you're doing. So that's for sure. So this ebook, when does that ebook come out?
It'll come out probably sometime next week around the time I'm actually running a 5-day home studio rehab challenge starting next week. So it's going to drop around the same time.
So let's talk about your, we want to talk about that a little bit, about your it's more like a master line class. Now, is this where everybody, do you have a class at a certain time, or is it pre-recorded? What is this class coming up? Let's talk about that. And how often do you have these?
Sure. So I basically plan to do these every 3 months, or, once a quarter. And they talk about 5 different areas that you want to think about when you're setting up your space. We analyze your room, figure out where everything is. So that's one class, and it's an hour each day through Zoom, or so people can ask questions, and they get a better idea. And then it's also recorded so people can watch it on at a later time as well, because I have so much information that I'm dispersing. Second day, then we talk about designing your studio space or designing your room, what kind of things you want to showcase, what's your personality, and what are you into, those kind of things. Then we talk about audio treatment, setting up the right audio space, microphone, stuff like that. Then we talk about lighting, because that's very important. Make sure that you're looking good, you sound good, and then you're framed correctly. And then the last one is all around cameras and lenses, and what type of cameras and lens you want to use in your space. Because again, the more people see you, I mean, I love the videos when people are shooting on their phones. It shows that authenticity. But then you also want to bring the next level of professionalism. Like, yes, I'm all authentic, but are you also professional? You want to bring both levels to showcase, hey, I'm personable, but then I also care about you, and I also care about my audience to make sure that I show up the best way possible as well.
Right. Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. That's definitely a anytime you're more professional is a game changer. I can't stress that enough. I think we've talked about that several times. Now, how often do you do these classes? You said you have one coming up now soon.
Yeah, so it's actually next Monday on the 18th to the Friday. 1 hour a day, and I do these every quarter. So I'll have this in March, and then I'll have it in June, probably in June time. And then again.
And what's the name of this that you're doing?
I call it Home Studio Rehab, or the 5-day Home Studio Rehab Challenge. And I can share the link to it as well.
Yeah, send that link in here so we have that.
So if you look into the private chat on StreamYard, you'll see the two links, one for the book and one for the
Okay,
challenge.
there it is. Okay. I'm gonna put these out on the. Okay, now that I see this also, I'm gonna make sure that we have this stuff for my audience for sure, and see what we can do, because I personally just think that this is an important if you do any kind of this work. That's why I was telling you I was super stoked to have this conversation with you as it is. Okay, so we got those out there now, both of those. So if you guys are listening now, this is a five days, 1 hour a day, and you're going to go right from everything, right from the setup, what it looks like, what you want yours to look like, what your personality brings in. What's your thought on this green screen? What's your thought on those?
Green screens are great, especially if you're if you're traveling a lot, and if you can get it correctly lit. Green screen is what matters. Now, my friend, who's also in film and video production like myself, he uses green screen all the time. But he's in film, been in video production, so his green screen looks similar to what I have going on, with lights flickering and everything. Because the image or the video that he's putting in the background is designed to look like it's a real setup. So, if you do green screen right, we've seen The Matrix, all these movies over the years, they're all using green screen, and they look epic, right? So you got to do it right if you're going to do a green screen.
So do you talk about that in your course at all if people are doing that?
I don't talk about it as much because, again, it takes your lighting and your camera is going to dictate how well that green screen is going to look. So once you have the setup that I talk about, I can easily add a green screen here and look epic, because I've got the things that matter the most dialed in.
Gotcha. So do you talk about that in your course too? I
don't talk about it as well. I don't talk about it as much. No.
This is more getting yourself set up so your lighting is correct. You have your camera dialed in the way it needs to look.
Yeah.
And to make sure that you have that good look, that that you're looking for in video
Yeah.
production. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, so one more thing I want to hit on that we're talking about. So we got on the sound and we got on the video. When you do yours, do you use StreamYard or not? Who do you use for your
So
when you go
I
live?
use many different software. I've used StreamYard before. I've used Restream. I've used many different software over the years, but now I focus on using one specific application called Ecamm Live. It does really well, and they've added a lot of cool features inside of it that makes my production a lot more easy and usable through the setup that I have going on over here.
So Ecamm Live, see, now that's something that I haven't heard. So people ask a lot of times, they have Zoom, they have StreamYard, and the things about StreamYard, I guess the ease of it for StreamYard is I wouldn't know if it's more of a middle of the road for somebody, but being able to have the access where you can just download your video or download your audio only.
Right.
I think Zoom, I'm not sure if Zoom does that. I'm going to imagine that whatever you're using is doing the same thing, correct?
Yeah, so for example, I just switched the camera from using using the direct camera to a camera that's coming through Ecamm Live, and here's what you'll see the differences. So in my Ecamm Live, I can set up the same kind of look, but then I have kind of like a different layouts that I can set up in here. So it makes it, it makes it just that much more fun. Here's some of the other layouts I can have in here. So again, you could do many of these things inside StreamYard, but this just lives in my computer.
And that's called Ecamm, right?
Ecamm Live. I can share a link to it as well if you want.
Right. I think that, see, all this stuff is, so I didn't know about this either. Jose's on too, by the way, saying hi to us.
Hey, Jose, just saw that message. Thank you, man.
So what you did there was so, and as a matter of fact, I don't know, were you on Jose's last virtual thing that he just did?
I was not. I was with kids, especially in the evenings. I am booked with my family. I have 4 kids, and it's just so hard to.
Yeah, well, I've been down that road for sure. Well, I've got grown kids now, so, but they're still all at home and still demand your time, even when they're living at home with you in their 20s.
Yes, they do.
So it's there's no difference, except they're a lot more expensive when they're adults. That is 100% true. So that was awesome about what you're saying. So I think that this is what I'm talking about, just making yourself have that professional look to you, to what you can do. Now on this Ecamm Live, you're able to have multiple guests on there too, I would imagine, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can bring on guests from all over the place. They could be on their phones, they could be on a PC, they can be on a Mac. It doesn't matter. You can go through a browser window and bring them in.
Oh, that's good. Now, do they have the ability to just download audio for when you're
so because the software lives on your computer, when it's recording to isolated audio for your guest and yourself, and then so you don't need to download. Everything is already on your machine, and you can just start processing and working toward with it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, and let's see. Let me make sure we got that on the private chat too. We got that up here. Is that the last one you just did? iPhone video, Studio Master Tree.
So the last link is
about
Ecamm Live.
All right, let me put that in the chat too, so we have it. When you're working on, I see that you have a lot of this. Just so people know, like if you listen to the show to help him out, also most of these things he's either affiliate with him or something like that. So I got these. If you notice, I used to have the big headphone on is
over the head.
Yes,
headphones, right?
Yeah, right. And I saw that you didn't have that, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. I want to make sure that I do that because I like the look of it without having the big headgear. Because every time I do a speech, They always
Hmm.
say that. They say, "Could you do it without the headgear
Without
on?"
the
Right?
headgear,
Without
right? Because they want to
yeah,
see you, right? Even
right.
like,
Hmm.
yeah. So even my setup, you don't see the microphone because I
Yeah,
want to
I
make
know. I don't
sure
see
that
your microphone either. I'm only seeing you. I'm like, man, he's got all that freaking
right.
stuff
And
dialed
the
in.
reason for that is because you want to be as close to the person as they would meet you in person, right? So when
Right.
like would tell me, "Hey, whenever you show up, you should bring your background." I'm like, I don't need to bring my background, right? Because I want them to know who this person is right here. So I'm gonna switch my camera angle just to show you. My microphone is right here, still about a fist away from my face. But because how audio works, right? When we talk, audio automatically falls down, right? So the microphone is in the area where my audio is gonna fall down to. So that's why it sounds good no matter where I place the microphone in front of me.
Yeah. See, so it's so good, man. All those little details, because and I notice I have to have my mic down to hear it, and when it's here, there is some different leveling when you're doing
Right.
when you do the mic. But yes, you're 100% correct, right? Because I have kind of this arm in front of me. Sometimes it's hidden because a lot of stuff is in black, but
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing that does drive me crazy. Absolutely drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Having it there sometimes. So this was awesome for me, just to get, for me personally, just so I can sharpen that. Now, the see, I'm going out of town because I think that's your thing is starting next week, correct? Next week is
Correct.
your 5-day thing,
18th to the 22nd.
18th to the 22nd. And what time during the day are you doing that? Your
It's going to
lives?
be 10:30 a.m. Eastern time to
Uh-huh.
11:30.
Okay, that's going to be good. Yeah, I personally may sign up for this because I think I'm coming back on that Sunday. I'm going out
Mm-hmm.
of town to Nashville,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll probably I've been playing around wanting to do this course with you because I'm in that space and
Mm-hmm.
I've already learned quite a bit from you. I'll probably take it to the next level just listening because I've got more questions for you that I think that people have some of these questions. They take the class and get to that next level yourself for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that this was excellent for me, by the way.
Thanks, Mark.
So
Appreciate it.
yeah. So I'm going to let you take the floor. I'm going to give you one more minute. Tell everybody about your, what your stuff. If you anything else you want to plug for yourself, where your website is, about yourself, and we've talked about the class that you're going to have. I'll make sure that all this will be. Today, a little bit later today, I'll have the audio of this downloaded. I'll have the
Mm-hmm.
AI. I'll send you some clips of what it pulled out of us,
Nice.
and then I'll send you those clips that you can share. And anything else that you want to share with us, go right ahead. I'll leave the floor to you.
100%, man. Well, Mark, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak about my passion, which is film production, and sharing it with how to put it all together. And the reason I've been so good at it is just like yourself, right? You've been running your martial arts space. It's the martial arts space, right?
Right. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Right, for 30 plus years, and how good you're at it. So the same way, I've been doing this for a long time and producing film, setting up stages for other people. And when the pandemic hit, I was like, you know what? I want to look better on camera because I've done that so much for other people. How can I do that for myself? So once I put all the stuff that I had learned into my own space, I fell into a hole of I fell into learning one new thing, and that was speaking to the camera, right? Hardest thing in the world is to speak to the camera, and having a little bit of training with Toastmasters helped a lot because
Mm-hmm.
you're on stage, you're giving a conversation, you're speaking to public, you're speaking to one person, two people, right? You want to make sure that you come as natural on camera to the people that are in front of you. So I spent a ton of time working on myself, working on getting good at speaking to the camera, speak to the audience, and speak from the heart, right? Bring who you are out to the public And if there's more people talking about what you're talking about, guess what? There's more need for that thing in the world. So keep at it. And thanks again for the opportunity, man.
Oh, it was great. It was an awesome hour. I'll have all this stuff out for you guys that are listening to the show with Junaid. If you want to get on his class, if you guys are in CLA, I would encourage you people that are in CLA that listen to this and the replay to get into his class and make yourself look above and beyond anybody else that's in the CLA, as we are always, in a space of entrepreneurs. So I really appreciate the hour, man. It was well informed for me. I look forward to sharing this out with everybody else, man.
Thanks so much, Mark.
All right. You have a good day, man. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Real Talk with Mark Cox. Real life, real topics, real conversation. We're passionate about motivation, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, and coming at it from a real angle. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we hope you had fun. We know we did. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on Instagram and Facebook at MarkCox100. Make sure to subscribe and review. And tell a friend or two about the show. For more, hit up the website at markcox.com. Till next time, keep it real.